Picture this: Spain, the 1930s, a nation on the brink of collapse. Political chaos reigns, fierce divisions erupt between left and right, cities echo with the sounds of protests and clashes. In this fiery landscape emerges a man destined to reshape Spain's history, for better or for worse, a young general named Francisco Franco. Francisco Franco Bahamonde, born in 1892 in the coastal city of Ferrol, came from a family steeped in naval tradition. Yet Franco defied expectations, trading the oceans for the land and enrolling in Spain's Infantry Academy at just 14 years old. Even as a cadet, Franco stood out, not for flashes of brilliance, but for his steely discipline, his methodical mind, and his unrelenting drive. Within years, he was stationed in Spanish Morocco and sent to fight in the Rif War, a brutal colonial conflict. It was in the deserts of North Africa that Franco's reputation began to harden. He became known for his tactical skill, his unflinching authority, and some whispered, his coldness. By the age of 33, Franco was the youngest general in Spain, earning both admiration and resentment among peers. Fast forward to the 1930s, and Spain was unraveling. The monarchy had fallen, replaced by the Second Republic, a fragile democracy torn between radical reforms and fierce pushback from conservatives. Franco, a deeply traditional man, watched as land reforms, anti-clerical laws, and labor strikes shook the nation. He was a soldier first, sworn to neutrality, but his conservative leanings were no secret. As Spain descended deeper into chaos, the coup began, a fateful moment in July 1936 when Franco and other generals launched their rebellion against the government. From the start, it was clear that Franco wasn't just another conspirator. This was calculated, and he had the skill to wage war beyond petty politics. The Spanish Civil War ignited, splitting the nation in two: the nationalists, with Franco at their helm, versus the Republicans, defenders of the rapidly crumbling republic. For nearly 3 years, Spain became a battlefield drenched in blood. Franco's nationalists pushed forward, often ruthlessly, consolidating their power. He was a man hardened by war, driven by an iron ideology that married traditional Catholic values with militaristic order. Cities fell: Madrid, Barcelona, and so did Spain's hopes for democracy. In 1939, Franco's forces triumphed. The Republic was defeated, leaving Franco as Spain's undisputed ruler. But what happens when a soldier becomes a statesman? The transition from battlefield to palace rarely comes without complications, and Franco was no exception. The early days of his rule set the tone: executions, suppression of dissent, censorship. It wasn't just a regime, it was a shadow that loomed over every aspect of life in Spain. Franco called his system national Catholicism, a deeply conservative blend that intertwined the Catholic Church with the state, where loyalty and morality were dictated from above. Education, media, and culture became weapons to craft obedience. And yet, Franco's Spain endured, not by accident but through cunning survival. In World War II, Franco walked a careful line, remaining officially neutral despite his sympathy for Axis powers like Hitler and Mussolini. Though Spanish volunteers fought alongside German forces in Russia, Franco's Spain avoided direct conflict, ensuring its survival while war consumed Europe. As the Cold War began, Franco made another calculated shift. Allies like Britain and the United States, once critical of his dictatorship, slowly warmed to him as a bulwark against communism. Spain, under Franco, was no democracy, but it became a strategic pawn in a global game. Slowly, the dictatorship softened economically, embracing foreign investment, tourism, and industrial growth in the 1950s and 60s. Prosperity came, but political freedom remained a distant dream. Yet Franco couldn't escape time. By the 1970s, his grip on Spain began to loosen, not through revolution, but through mortality. His health faded, and so did the illusion of permanence. In November 1975, Francisco Franco died, leaving behind a nation poised between the past and the future. His death marked the end of Spain's dictatorship, setting the stage for the return of democracy. But Franco's shadow didn't fade so easily. It lingered, in memory and history, in spaces still contested by Spaniards to this day. The scars of the Civil War, the repression, the divide between the old and the new, they endure. Statues of Franco became battlegrounds. His burial site at the Valle de los Caídos, a flashpoint of debate between those who see him as a patriot and those who see him as a tyrant. Francisco Franco's legacy is one of paradoxes. He is a man remembered for preserving Spain's unity by dividing its soul, for lifting its economy while silencing its people, for shaping its history while leaving behind unanswered questions. Was he a savior of tradition or a destroyer of freedom? A skilled leader or a calculating oppressor? Perhaps the answer depends on who you ask. A survivor of his regime or someone who lived in peace under its stability? Either way, Franco remains etched into Spain's history, not as a chapter neatly resolved, but as a lingering question that continues to stir passion, heartbreak, and debate. The story of Francisco Franco isn't just about Spain, it's about the fragile choices every nation faces in times of upheaval. Stability versus freedom, order versus chaos. And it's a reminder that history's greatest figures often wield power at a price paid not by themselves, but by the lives of millions who live in their shadow. For Franco, that shadow still casts across Spain today.